His name was Stanley Hayami. If you had met him before the war, you might have assumed he was just another shy kid from Los Angeles. He doodled in the margins of his homework, wrote silly jokes in his notebook, and dreamed of becoming a writer or illustrator one day. But after the attack of Pearl Harbor, Stanley's world and the world of 120,000 Japanese Americans collapsed overnight. They were forced from their homes, called enemy aliens, and locked behind barbed wire in places like Heart Mountain. And so, in a cold barrack in Wyoming, Stanley opened a small notebook and began writing the diary that would outlive him. The journey to the Heart Mountains. The train ride was long, dark, crowded. Stanley described it simply. We didn't know where we were going, just that we weren't wanted where we were. Families pressed against the window to see the outside world one last time, their homes shrinking into distance. Inside, military police walked up and down the aisles. Babies cried. People whispered prayers. When Stanley stepped off the train, he found himself staring at the camp, surrounded by guard towers. Dust stung his eyes. The wind carried a bitter smell of earth frozen over. His new home, Heart Mountain. First day in captivity. Inside the barracks, the walls shook forever. The wind blew. Snow blew in through the cracks between the boards. His mother stuffed newspaper into the gaps. His father nailed cardboards against the wall for extra insulation. That night, Stanley wrote, "It is 10 below zero. The wind whistles through the wall. How I wish I had my own room again." He slept wearing his coat, sometimes two coats. Privacy was non existent. Entire family lived in one single room, no kitchen, no bathroom. Everyone ate in mass halls, used shared latrines, and tried to keep their dignity in undignified place. Still, he sketched everything: the barracks, the dust storm, the people waiting in line for food. Drawing became his escape. Life continues even behind bar wires. Despite the fence, life kept moving. Kids played baseball in a field carved out between the barracks. Couples held hands behind the laundry building. Teenagers like Stanley went to makeshift class rooms. But school inside the camp wasn't the same. The teachers were overworked, supplies were scarce, the government refused to fund proper facilities. Stanley struggled in class. He worried he wasn't smart enough. He worried he'll disappoint his parents. In one diary entry, he confessed, "Everyone expects so much from me, but I feel like I'm falling behind." Still, he dreamed. He dreamed of becoming a writer. He dreamed of escaping the fence, not with violence, but with a pencil. "Someday I want to make something of myself," he wrote. "Something more than this place." The weight of America. One day, Stanley stood in a classroom with an American flag hanging above the blackboard. The teacher asked the student to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. He hesitated. "How do you pledge loyalty to a country that locked you up?" Yet he recited the words anyways, because deep down, Stanley still believed in America, or at least in the idea of what America could be. In his diary, he wrestled with the contradictions. I love this country, but I don't know if it loves us. Those words say everything. A boy trying to reconcile the patriotism with injustice, hope, and betrayal. Glimpse of hope. There were good days too, days where the fans felt a little farther away, days when someone hit a home run during a camp baseball game and the entire block cheered. Days when family gather for festivals, stringing makeshift decorations from the barracks to barracks. Days when Stanley saw little children laughing and running barefoot in the dust, blissfully unaware of why they were there. Sometimes I forget where we are prisoners. He wrote, sometimes it feels like a normal town almost. But reality always returns with a buzz of guard towers, spotlights, or the bark of military orders slicing through the air. The decision that changed everything. By 1943, the US government began allowing Japanese Americans to volunteer for military service to prove their loyalty. Stanley was 18. He faced an impossible choice: stay in camp with his family or fight and possibly die for the very country that imprisoned him. In his diary, the conflict is clear. If America doubt us, maybe must we should prove ourselves. So he made his decision. He would leave the Heart Mountains and join the 442 Regimental Combat Team, the most decorated unit in American military history, composed almost entirely of Japanese Americans. His mother cried quietly as he packed. His father shook his hands, and a little too hard. His younger siblings didn't understand why their brother had to go, but Stanley had made up his mind. He walked out the barracks that day wearing a borrowed coat and carrying his diary. Stanley left for training, writing letters home whenever he could. He fought bravely in Europe, but in April 1945, just weeks before the war ended, Stanley Hayami was killed in Italy. He was 19. 19. His diary was sent back to his family. Inside were pages filled with dreams he never got to chase and drawings he never got to finish.